Max Verstappen may be seen with Toto Wolff on a yacht, talking about the weather and perhaps sim racing. Right now, in an office in Milton Keynes, there is a contract waiting for a signature. It is a very generous contract, 65 million euros a season. It would bind Max Verstappen to Red Bull Racing long-term, and it would require him to give up his exit clause. Total security through to 2029. And if he signs it, he will lose more money than most drivers earn in an entire career. Not because the money is bad, because of what the contract quietly takes away. There is a paragraph in his current deal. It says that if he is not inside the top 2 in the Drivers' Championship at the summer break, he can walk. He is 6th. No penalty. No fee. He gives up the contract and he goes and wins somewhere else. He has until October. That paragraph is the most valuable thing Max Verstappen owns. It is worth more than his jet, more than his car collection, more arguably than his house. Because he believes he can win again in a different car, a Mercedes-powered car. But no seat is open. And that complicates matters because what he wants, a one-year commitment and nothing more, does not work in the real world. And Red Bull Racing are trying to buy that paragraph for the price of a pay rise. Here is how it actually works. Nothing here is confirmed. Nobody outside his management has seen the contract, and we are not pretending otherwise. But the paddock talks, and enough of it lines up to work with. Start with the consensus number. Max Verstappen's base salary at Red Bull Racing for 2026 is reported at roughly $70 million. That is around 65 million euros, the figure in that Milton Keynes contract. The biggest number on the grid, Lewis Hamilton, in his second season at Ferrari, is reported at around $60 million. Forbes puts Max Verstappen's total annual earnings closer to 86 million, once bonuses and endorsements are folded in. And here is the first surprise. The endorsement slice of that is small. Personal sponsorship is estimated at between $9 and $15 million a year. Jumbo, the Dutch supermarket that has backed him since karting, 3 to 6 million. Heineken, 2 to 4. Electronic Arts Sports, 1 to 2. Career earnings in the hundreds of millions. Outside sponsorship of 15 million a year. At the very top of the estimate. Why so little? Because in Formula One, the commercial machine sits at team level, not driver level. Oracle alone reportedly pays Red Bull Racing around $110 million a year for the title sponsorship. None of that touches Max Verstappen directly, which means his income is dangerously concentrated. Almost everything he earns flows through one contract, with one team. A team that is also functionally his biggest sponsor. And a team where, by his own account, he cannot currently win. What losing actually means. Before any numbers go on screen, one word needs pinning down. When we say Max Verstappen could lose hundreds of millions, we do not mean money vanishing from an account. Nobody is taking anything from him. He will be extraordinarily rich in every version of this story. The difference is between being 50 million richer and 200 million richer, on top of a fortune he has already accumulated. That is the entire spread. What we mean is forfeited. Money that was available to him that he does not collect, because of a decision made in the next 8 weeks. That is the only honest way to frame this, and it is still a very large number. So how rich is he already? The estimates scatter wildly. Celebrity net worth says $200 million. Others say 250 or 260. Across every published figure, the range runs from about 156 million to nearly 400 million. That is a gap of $240 million on the same man, in the same year. Nobody outside his camp actually knows. What is knowable is his income going forward. Because income has a contract behind it, a deadline attached to it, and 3 distinct ways this can go wrong. The asset. His current deal runs to the end of 2028. Buried inside it is a performance clause. If he is not inside the top 2 at the summer break, he is free to leave. He finished the Hungarian Grand Prix 6th in the drivers' standings, more than 100 points off the championship lead. According to Bild, the clause activated automatically. He has until October to use it. Red Bull Racing did not offer to buy the clause out for a fee. They offered something smarter, an extension. 1 extra year through to 2029, at around 65 million euros a season, with every exit route quietly written out. They are not paying him for the clause. They are paying him roughly what he already earns and taking the clause as part of the bundle. The goal is straightforward. Red Bull Racing want commitment without conditions. They do not want a driver who can detach himself from the bad years and stay for the good ones. They want him tied to the project, results or not. Because what that clause really represents is optionality. The right to walk into any room in the paddock and say, I can leave tomorrow. In finance, that right always carries a price. It is often the most expensive thing in a contract because it moves the risk onto the other side, and the value works in both directions. What the option is worth to Max Verstappen is precisely what it costs Red Bull Racing, which is why the calculation is simple. Red Bull Racing are trying to acquire it for nothing, wrapped in a number large enough that nobody notices. The offer has sat with his management for weeks, unanswered. Bild reports that Red Bull leadership, including Oliver Mintzlaff, are growing impatient. Of course they are. Every week without a signature makes it more expensive for them. But holding out carries a real cost too. Beat 4. The buyers. An option is only worth something if someone wants to buy it. For 18 months, one name has been attached to Max Verstappen. Mercedes. Toto Wolff never hid the interest. And this summer, the two of them were photographed together on holiday in Sardinia for the second year running, alongside their partners, Kelly Piquet and Susie Wolff. Max Verstappen's jet reportedly flew from Nice to Sardinia, then straight on to Salzburg, close to Red Bull's own headquarters. The Paddock rumor mill ran at full speed, but look past the yacht photographs to what Toto Wolff has actually said on the record. He is keeping George Russell and Kimi Antonelli for 2027. We do not want to change things, end quote, he told Sky Sports. That is about as close to a door closing as this sport gets. Friendly holiday, closed seat, which leaves McLaren. Back-to-back constructors, champions, and increasingly the name reported alongside the Verstappen camp for 2028, now that Mercedes looks spoken for. Here is the catch. McLaren's own drivers are not paid anywhere near Red Bull money. Lando Norris is reported on a base salary in the $25 to $30 million range, with total earnings, bonuses and sponsorship included, reaching somewhere around 70 to 77 million in a career best year. Oscar Piastri's base is reported lower still, in the mid-teens. Compare that to Max Verstappen's reported 70 million floor at Red Bull Racing, before a single bonus. Why the gap? Because Red Bull Racing's pitch for years was that you can win here. No rival team has to match that number because they are not selling the same promise, especially not to a driver currently 6th in the standings. Any offer that lands would likely come in $25 to $30 million a year, below what Red Bull Racing have already put in front of him. And it would probably come with a discounted first season on top, a settling-in year, while he adapts to a new car, new engineers, and no guarantee the chemistry works. So here is the uncomfortable arithmetic. For Max Verstappen to leave, a team has to displace a contracted driver, absorb a salary well north of $30 million a year, hand him number 1 status, and do it in a season where he sits 6th. And the option has an expiry date. As long as Kimi Antonelli keeps performing at this level, the thing Max Verstappen is holding out for is worth less every week. Not because he has done anything wrong, because someone else is doing something right. This is where he can lose the money without making a single mistake. His own manager, Raymond Vermeulen, has been cooling the temperature. He has told an Austrian outlet that Max Verstappen wants to finish his time at Red Bull Racing, that his contract runs to 2028, and that he would like to fulfill it. That is not the language of a man packing boxes. So he can lose by signing, he can lose by waiting and finding a smaller check on the other side, unless there is a third move. And there is. Beat 5, the move that creates buyer, not retirement, a sabbatical. According to ESPN, that is the direction he is reportedly leaning. And the gap between those two words is worth tens of millions. Retirement ends the story. A sabbatical does something smarter. It manufactures the one thing he currently lacks. Scarcity. Because Max Verstappen already runs a business outside the cockpit. Verstappen.com Racing won the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup in the Gold Cup class. It has moved from Aston Martin to a multi-year deal with Mercedes AMG in the Pro category. And it runs a sim racing partnership with Team Redline that has already turned one sim driver into a championship winner in a real car. He has raced the Nürburgring 24 hours. He holds a Nordschleife permit. He has won a GT3 race there. Ford's racing boss, Mark Rushbrook, has confirmed on record that Le Mans has been discussed with him, not 2027. That has been ruled out, but the conversation is live, and it goes back more than 3 years. So what does a year out actually cost? The team salary, call it $70 million, gone for that year. Personal sponsorship, though, is largely untouched because deals like Heineken and Electronic Arts are not tied to a race seat. Call it $9 to $12 million retained. Net cost of the sabbatical year somewhere around $60 million. Real money. But a single year of it, not 3. And what does it buy? Fernando Alonso left and came back as an event. Lewis Hamilton spent a decade at one team, became available, and Ferrari paid what Ferrari paid. A driver who might leave is worth a multiple of a driver who cannot. Though it is worth saying plainly, an option is not a guarantee. It only pays if someone is buying when he comes back. That is not a gap year. That is a pricing strategy. If Formula One spends a season without its biggest name, and that name becomes available again at 31, he does not have one bidder. He has all of them. The 3 ways he loses. 3 scenarios. All net. All money he would otherwise have kept. 1. He signs the extension. Guaranteed enormous safe. Roughly $200 million secured across the remaining 3 seasons, through to 2029. But the moment he signs, he is off the market until 2029, locked at a rate set in a season where he sits 6th. If an open bidding war would ever have pushed his price toward Hamilton to Ferrari territory, that premium, likely 25 to 30 million a year, is gone the day he signs. Call it 80 to 90 million in total. 2. He walks away entirely. 28 years old, 4 titles, and no Formula One salary again. 3 forfeited prime seasons at roughly 70 million each is around 210 million. Add lost bonuses and sponsorship overlap, and the real figure passes 230 million. The biggest number on the list, and the least likely. 3. He holds the clause, and the market does not fully show up. Mercedes stays committed to George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Only McLaren is a realistic bidder. And even McLaren pays a discount for a driver currently 6th, plus a reduced first season rate while he settles in. Net gap against simply signing with Red Bull Racing, somewhere in the $60 to $80 million range. That is the most sophisticated play. It is also the one with real downside built in. He could protect the option and still finish worse off than if he had signed. The spread across those 3 outcomes runs from roughly $60 million in the mildest case to well over $200 million in the most extreme. Comfortably more than $100 million separating the best version of this decision from the worst. Now look again at what is actually on the table. An extension at roughly his current rate, dressed up as loyalty and security. It is neither. It is the cheapest of the 3 outcomes for Red Bull Racing, and under 2 of the 3 scenarios the most expensive for him. He does not need more money. He has a fortune that has already outrun any plausible use for it. What he needs is to avoid selling the most valuable thing he owns to the only buyer currently bidding. He has until October, at the very most, and that is an uncomfortable position for the 3 people who matter at Red Bull: Laurent Mekies, Oliver Mintzlaff, and Mark Mateschitz, who inherited the empire his father built. Powerful people do not enjoy waiting. That is something Max Verstappen should be pricing in as well. Most people are watching to find out which car he drives next year. That is the small question. The big one is whether the best driver of his generation is also a good negotiator. Those are completely different skills, and only one of them is worth more than $100 million this autumn. So, would you take the guaranteed money, or hold the card and find out what it is worth? Tell me in the comments. Hit like and subscribe for more analysis straight from the paddock. See you in Zandvoort.